My name is Renee Whitfield. I'm 28 years old. 5 months ago, my father stood on the front porch of the house I grew up in, held out a Greyhound bus ticket to Atlanta, and said 7 words I will never unhear. Take this and don't come back. It was raining. I had a duffel bag with 3 days' worth of clothes, $212 in my checking account, and a phone with 14% battery. My stepmother, Brenda, watched from behind the screen door with her arms crossed. My half-sister, Kaylee, stood at the living room window eating a popsicle like she was watching something on television. I looked at my father, the man who used to carry me on his shoulders at the county fair, who taught me to ride a bike in the church parking lot, and I searched his face for one trace of hesitation, one flicker of regret. There was nothing. He pressed the ticket into my hand and said, "You've been nothing but a burden since your mother left. Brenda and I can't keep carrying you. Kaylee deserves better than this. Go make your own way or don't. Either way, you're not doing it here." I took the ticket, walked to the curb, didn't look back. But what my father didn't know was that the city he was sending me to would give me everything he never did. 2 years later, when I walked back into Cartersville, Georgia, I didn't come with a duffel bag. I came with a business, a future, and a truth he couldn't outrun. The look on his face when he realized what I'd built, and what he'd thrown away, is something I'll carry for the rest of my life. Before I tell you what happened when I came back, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I'd love to hear from you. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up in Cartersville, Georgia, I learned that families can rearrange themselves overnight, and when they do, someone always ends up on the outside. My mother, Sandra, left when I was 7. She struggled with addiction, disappeared one Tuesday, and never came home. I don't say that with anger. I've made my peace with it. But her leaving changed the math in our household permanently. Dad, Michael Whitfield, remarried when I was 10. Brenda came with a daughter, Kaylee, who was 4 at the time. Overnight, I went from being Dad's only child to being an inconvenience in a house that was being rebuilt around a new family. Dad became a different person after Brenda. Not all at once, slowly, like a photograph fading. The man who read me bedtime stories became the man who forgot to pick me up from school. The man who called me my girl started introducing me as Sandra's daughter. The distance between us grew 1 degree at a time until I couldn't feel any warmth at all. Kaylee got softness. I got structure. When I was 13, I made the honor roll for the first time. Straight B+s and 2 A's. I brought the report card home, proud, heart pounding, hoping this would be the thing that made Dad see me again. He glanced at it. "That's fine, Renee." Didn't look up from the television. That same week, Kaylee, 7 years old, drew a picture of a horse at school. Brenda framed it. Dad hung it on the refrigerator and took a photo for Facebook. "My little artist," he wrote. I told myself it was different. Kaylee was younger. Younger kids need more encouragement. At 17, I got accepted to Kennesaw State University with a partial scholarship covering 60% of tuition. I needed $4,800 a year for the rest. I asked Dad if he could help. He leaned back in his recliner. "Renee, I've got Kaylee's gymnastics, Brenda's car payment, and the house. I can't swing it." Kaylee's gymnastics cost $3,200 a year. I knew because I'd seen the invoice on the kitchen counter, but I said nothing. I worked 2 jobs that summer, morning shift at a gas station, evenings at a pizza place, and saved $3,100. I deferred enrollment for a semester, worked another 4 months, and started college a full year behind my class. I commuted 40 minutes each way because I couldn't afford the dorm. Nobody in my family asked how I was managing. At 22, 3 months after I graduated with a degree in communications, I lost my apartment. The company I'd been hired at folded. I was between jobs, between leases, between everything. I asked Dad if I could stay at the house for 30 days while I got back on my feet. Brenda said no immediately. "We don't have the space, Renee." They had a guest room. It had been Kaylee's playroom until she moved into it, and then it was a home office that nobody used. But Brenda said there was no space, and Dad agreed. I slept in my car for 11 days before a coworker let me crash on her couch. I told myself it would get better. I told myself I just needed to try harder, and eventually the door would open. But all of that was just the long, slow walk toward the porch, toward the bus ticket, toward the 7 words that finally shattered everything. The day Dad handed me that ticket, I'd come home to ask for help one last time. I was 26. I'd been laid off from my second communications job during a round of cuts. I had 2 weeks left on my lease and no savings. I'd spent the last of it helping Kaylee, ironically, when she needed $800 for a car repair 6 months earlier. She'd never paid me back. Nobody expected her to. I didn't ask to move in. I asked for 2 weeks in the guest room and help with a security deposit, $600, for a new apartment I'd already found. Dad listened. Then he went inside for 10 minutes. When he came back, he had the bus ticket. "Atlanta's got more opportunity," he said. "This is the best I can do for you." A one-way Greyhound ticket to Atlanta cost $38. He could have given me the $600. He chose $38 and a direction. Brenda's voice came from behind the screen door. "This is for the best, Renee. You need to learn to stand on your own. We've helped as much as we can." Helped. As much as they could. I stood on that curb with rain soaking through my jacket and felt something inside me go quiet. Not break. Go quiet. Like a machine that had been running on hope for 26 years finally powered down. I caught the bus the next morning. 6 hours to Atlanta, arriving at the downtown Greyhound station with a duffel bag, a dead phone, and no plan. That's where I met Dorothy Hayes. Dorothy was 67 years old, retired from a 30-year career in nonprofit management, and volunteering at a transitional housing organization called Second Road that operated 3 blocks from the bus station. She was handing out resource packets to new arrivals. I was sitting on a bench trying to charge my phone at a wall outlet that didn't work. "That outlet's been broken since 2019, she said. "Come inside, we have chargers and coffee." I followed her because I had nowhere else to go. Second Road wasn't a shelter. It was a bridge program, transitional housing for up to 6 months, job placement assistance, financial literacy workshops, and mentorship. Dorothy ran the mentorship side. She'd built the program from a single donated office into a network that had helped over 400 people in 8 years. Local news had profiled her twice. She turned down both interviews. "I don't do this for cameras," she told me later. "I do it because someone did it for me 40 years ago. And the debt never stops paying forward." She paired new residents with professionals in their field. "What's your background?" she asked, handing me a cup of coffee that was better than anything I'd had in months. "Communications, degree from Kennesaw State, 2 years of experience before the layoffs." She raised an eyebrow. "A degree in experience? Honey, you're not starting from zero. You're starting from further ahead than you think. Most people walk in here with nothing but survival skills. You've got survival skills and a resume. That's a head start." Within a week, Dorothy had matched me with a woman named Aisha Trenton, the communications director at a mid-size marketing agency in Midtown. Aisha took one look at my portfolio, asked me 3 questions and said, "Can you start Monday?" I started as a contract content strategist at $52,000 a year. Not glamorous, not comfortable, but real. Dorothy checked on me every Friday. She'd call at 7 in the morning, always 7, never later, and ask the same 3 questions. Are you eating? Are you saving? Are you growing? 3 months in, I'd moved out of Second Road and into a shared apartment in East Atlanta. I was saving $800 a month. I'd taken over the agency's social media accounts and grown their Instagram following by 340%. Aisha promoted me to full-time with benefits and a raise to $61,000. 6 months in, I pitched a content strategy to a client, a regional restaurant chain, that landed a $180,000 annual contract. Biggest win the agency had seen from a junior strategist. Aisha called me into her office and said, "I'm making you associate director. You've earned it." My salary jumped to $78,000. I moved into my own apartment, a 1-bedroom in Decatur with a balcony and morning light and a kitchen where I cooked dinner for myself every night. I bought a plant, then 3 more. Then a bookshelf I filled slowly, one title at a time. I was building a life, brick by brick with my own hands. Back in Cartersville, nobody knew. Dad didn't call. Brenda didn't text. Kaylee sent me a message once. "Hey, can you Venmo me $200 for a concert?" And when I didn't respond, I never heard from her again. They assumed I was struggling, drowning, proving their theory that I couldn't make it on my own. The reality was the opposite, and I let them believe whatever they wanted. It wasn't easy. 5 months after arriving in Atlanta, I hit a wall. The agency lost 2 clients in the same month. My position wasn't cut, but the stress was crushing. I worked 70-hour weeks to help stabilize the accounts. Lost 12 pounds I didn't have to lose. Sat in my car one Sunday and cried until my ribs hurt. I called Dorothy. 7 in the morning because that's when we talked. "I'm tired, Dorothy. I feel like I'm running and the ground keeps moving." "Then stop running and start planting," she said. "You don't have to sprint, Renee. You just have to stay rooted. The rest grows on its own." She was right. The agency stabilized. I stabilized. I started volunteering at Second Road on weekends, answering phones, helping new arrivals the way Dorothy had helped me. It gave me something no paycheck could. Purpose that wasn't attached to proving anything to anyone. 14 months after arriving in Atlanta with $212 and a dead phone, I was earning $78,000, had $22,000 in savings, and had been featured in a local business journal for the restaurant chain campaign. The article called me a rising voice in Atlanta's marketing landscape. Dorothy cut out the article and pinned it to the Second Road bulletin board. Then, 17 months after the bus ticket, something happened that brought everything full circle. Kaylee called me, not to ask for money, to deliver news. "Dad's store is closing." My father had run a small hardware store in Cartersville for 15 years. It wasn't profitable, hadn't been for the last 3 years, but it was his identity, his name on the sign, his handshake with every customer. "He's in trouble, Renee. Brenda's been covering the mortgage with her nursing salary, but the store's debt is $73,000. They might lose the house." I sat with that information for 2 days. Then I drove to Cartersville. Not because I owed them anything, not because I wanted to save them, because I needed them to see who I was now, and I needed to see their faces when the truth stood in front of them. I pulled into the driveway on a Saturday afternoon. Same house, same porch, same cracked step Dad had been meaning to fix for a decade. Brenda saw me first through the kitchen window. Her face went blank. She came to the door. "Renee?" "Hi, Brenda." Dad appeared behind her. He looked older, thinner. His eyes were red-rimmed and tired. "Renee." He said my name like he was testing whether it was real. "What are you doing here?" "Kaylee told me about the store." He stiffened. "That's none of your business." "You're right. It's not." I stayed on the porch. I didn't ask to come in. But I came anyway, because 2 years ago you gave me a bus ticket and told me not to come back. And I want you to see what happened after that. I handed him a folder. Inside, my employment letter, my salary statement, my savings summary, the business journal article, and a printed screenshot of my LinkedIn profile, Associate Director of Content Strategy. He opened it slowly, read each page. His hands were trembling by the third one. He went back to the business journal article and read it twice. I watched his eyes move across the words and saw something shift. Not guilt exactly, but recognition. The slow, sickening recognition that he had been wrong about his own daughter. Brenda was reading over his shoulder. Her face had lost all color. She took a step back, then forward again, like she couldn't decide whether to stay or flee. "You did this," he said quietly. "In 2 years." "I did it in spite of being told I couldn't. By you. By the person who was supposed to believe in me more than anyone." Brenda was reading over his shoulder. Her face had lost all color. "The $38 bus ticket you gave me was the best investment anyone ever made in me. Not because you meant it to be, but because it put me in front of people who actually believed I was worth something." Dad set the folder down on the porch railing. His jaw was working, but nothing was coming out. "I'm not here to rub it in," I said. "I'm here because despite everything, I don't want you to lose your house. And I'm in a position to help, not because you deserve it, but because I choose to be the kind of person who helps. That's something I learned from a woman named Dorothy who handed me a cup of coffee at a bus station when my own father wouldn't hand me a glass of water. I gave him a second envelope. Inside was a check for $15,000. That's not a loan. It's not the full debt. I can't cover $73,000, and I wouldn't if I could. But it's enough to keep the mortgage current while you figure out the rest. And it comes with one condition. What condition? You acknowledge what you did. Not to me, I've already healed from it. But to yourself. Because the man who put his daughter on a bus with $38 and called it help needs to sit with that. And if you can't, then cash the check and we're even. But we're done. He stared at the check. The porch was silent except for the cicadas and someone's lawnmower 2 streets over. I failed you, he said. His voice cracked on the second word. I know that. Yes, you did. I told myself you'd be fine, that you were strong enough, that it wasn't that bad, I know. That's what people say when they don't want to feel responsible. I took a breath. But I was fine. Not because of you, in spite of you. He nodded. Tears ran into the stubble on his jaw. He didn't wipe them. Brenda turned and went inside. I heard her crying in the kitchen. Whether it was guilt or embarrassment or something else, I didn't know. It wasn't my job to interpret her tears anymore. Kaylee came outside. She looked at the folder, the check, then at me. Renee, You owe me $800, I said, not angry, just factual. And you never once asked where I was. She didn't have an answer for that. I didn't need one. I got back in my car. That was 5 months ago. Dad cashed the check. He sold the hardware store inventory to a contractor supply company for $41,000 and is using the combined amount to pay down the debt. Brenda still works. They'll keep the house. Dad and I talk on the phone now. Once every 2 weeks. Short calls, careful words. He asked me about my job last time, asked about my apartment, asked if I was happy. I'm getting there, I said. Good, he said. You deserve that. It was the first time he'd ever told me I deserved anything. Brenda sent me a card. It said, "Thank you for your generosity." Nothing personal, nothing warm. But it was something. And I've learned not to demand more from people than they're capable of giving. Kaylee Venmo'd me $200 last week with a note that said, "First installment." I laughed out loud in my apartment, alone, standing in the kitchen with my morning coffee. It was a start. A small, imperfect, human start. And sometimes that's all any of us can offer. I don't feel triumphant about any of this. I feel settled. Like a river that finally found its path after years of being dammed. I feel like the person I was always supposed to become, not because someone handed me the life, but because I walked into a city I didn't know and let it teach me who I already was. Dorothy still calls me every Friday at 7. Last week she said, "You know what you are, Renee? You're proof that the people who get thrown away are often the ones worth keeping." I wrote that down, put it on my refrigerator, right next to my own honor roll report card from 8th grade that nobody ever hung up. If you're watching this and someone in your life has told you you're not worth staying for, if someone handed you a one-way ticket out of their life and called it a favor, I need you to hear this. Their rejection is not your destiny. Where they sent you is not where you end up. And the door they closed behind you? You don't ever have to knock on it again. You build your own door. You walk through it on your own terms. And if someday you choose to go back, not because you need to, but because you've grown enough to, that's not weakness. That's the kind of strength no one can take from you. You deserve a place in this world. Go find the people who already saved you a seat. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Have you ever been told you wouldn't make it, and then proved them wrong? I'd love to hear your story. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember, a one-way ticket only works if you never look forward, and you were always meant to go somewhere extraordinary.